We are about into the weekend. Happy Omen season, everybody. Happy Super Bowl weekend, everybody. We might get through 3 must-watches of the Omen season of movie watching. Maybe Omen 1976, definitely Super Sunday 1988, and without question, Super Bowl 60 2026, 3 must-watches may go down this weekend. Thank you for joining me tonight on the Frank Addington channel for this premiere video of Peter's predictions for Super Bowl 60 coming up on Sunday, the 26th, or the 8th of February, 2026. That is the first ever February 8th Super Bowl that we've ever had in history. So this one features the 14-3, 1 seed in the playoff, Seattle Seahawks, facing the also 14-3 New England Patriots. Now counting playoff wins, Seattle has 16 and New England has 17. The designated home team, that's right, that is the New England Patriots. This, of course, is a rematch of Super Bowl 49 back in February of 2015. It's a rematch, and it's 11 years ago. None of the players of either team are back for this Super Bowl. There is only one link from that Super Bowl to this one, and that is the assistant strength and conditioning coach. His name is Jamie Yankar, who was with Seattle back then, helping beast mode with his squats, and he's still with the team now as the strengthening and conditioning coach. So he's the only link to that Super Bowl. All right, so this game is going to be at 3:30 p.m. kickoff, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time, Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, California, and 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. Now, of course, this one is going to be on NBC with Mike Tirico on play-by-play and Chris Collinsworth, or as the Wire Club football trivia room likes to call him, Collingsworth, right, Shock? And this one, there was one 10 years ago in Santa Clara, California, at Levi Stadium, Super Bowl 50, Denver, Carolina, and a 13-year-old Drake May and his father traveled from North Carolina to watch their Panthers lose in the Super Bowl. 10 years later, Drake May is quarterbacking a team in the Super Bowl. Pretty incredible. Previous Super Bowl for these two franchises. Seattle is 1-2. They lost in Super Bowl 40, the rigged Super Bowl, to the Steelers. They won Super Bowl 48, the blowout of Denver, and then they lost in their repeat bid in the aforementioned Super Bowl 49 against New England. This is their 4th Super Bowl trip, so they're trying to get to 500, go to 2-2. New England is at its 12th Super Bowl appearance. These are the Super Bowls they've been in. Super Bowl 20, lost to the Bears. I'll circle the victory Super Bowl. So Super Bowl 20, they lost to UConn and Bear Scott's Bears. Super Bowl 31, they lost again, this time to the Packers. Super Bowl 36, they beat the Rams. Super Bowl 38, they beat Aces Panthers. Super Bowl 39, they beat Eagles 52's Eagles. Super Bowl 42, they lost to Big Blues Giants. Super Bowl 46, they lost again to Gideon's Giants. Super Bowl Falcons. Super Bowl 52, they lost to the Eagles. And then Super Bowl 53 was their last appearance, and they beat the Rams again. There are no Patriots from even that game back in February 2019 that are still on the Patriots. Okay, so the Patriots are 6-5 in their Super Bowl appearances. So if they win this game, they set the record for most Super Bowl victories with 7. Right now they're tied with Pittsburgh, and if they lose, if they lose, that would be a record 6th Super Bowl loss. Right now they're tied with Denver with 5 losses, so that'll be 6-6. All right, so a lot on the line. Let's talk about the head coaches in this game. So we have both coaches are in their first ever Super Bowl. They're Mike Macdonald and Mike Vrabel. Of course, Vrabel won 3 Super Bowls as a player for the Patriots. He's trying to become the first person to win a Super Bowl title with the same team as a player and a coach. This is the Mike versus Mike Super Bowl. This is the 3rd time there's been a Mike versus Mike head coach matchup in the Super Bowl. The first one was Mike Shanahan versus Mike Holmgren in Super Bowl 32. And then the second one was Super Bowl 45, Mike McCarthy versus Mike Tomlin. This is the 3rd Mike versus Mike. And if the games had gone the other way 2 weeks ago, we would have had Sean versus Sean in the Super Bowl. And now let's talk about the starting quarterbacks. So we have, for the Seattle Seahawks, we have Sam Darnold. For the New England Patriots, we have Drake May. Both quarterbacks were the number 3 overall pick in their drafts. Darnold in 2018 by the Jets, Drake May in 2024 by these Patriots. They're both number 3 overall picks. So nice little link there. Both starting in their first Super Bowl. Both are the first quarterbacks of their classes to start in a Super Bowl. Sam Darnold out of University of Southern California, Drake May out of University of North Carolina. If whatever team wins, the most likely, most valuable player will be a quarterback. Right now, the odds, the Vegas favorite to win the MVP is Sam Darnold. If that happens, he would be the 4th player from USC to win a Super Bowl most valuable player, joining Lynn Swann, Super Bowl 10, Marcus Allen, Super Bowl 18, and Malcolm Smith, Super Bowl 48, MVP with the Seattle Seahawks. So that would be the 2nd most MVPs for a college in Super Bowl history. The first is University of Michigan, Bayer Scott with Brady has 5, and then Desmond Howard with 1. So that would be pretty interesting if that happened. Now, in case you're wondering, the 3rd in the Vegas odds for winning Super Bowl MVP is Jackson Smith and Jigba, and if he happens to win it, which is very possible as well, as a receiver, he would be the first to win Super Bowl MVP from Ohio State since another Ohio State wide receiver, Santonio Holmes, Super Bowl 43 for the Steelers. Cool little link there. All right, now let's talk about the players in this game who have previous Super Bowl experience. So we have, even though these teams are talked about as not having much Super Bowl experience, since we don't have the Chiefs anymore, we don't have the Eagles. Okay, so we have And we know the Niners, a lot of experienced Super Bowl teams. We have on the Seahawks, there are 4 players who have played this, who have previously been part of a Super Bowl team. First one is Ernest Jones from Super Bowl 56 with the Rams, and this was a win, so they won the game. And then the second is cornerback Josh Joby who played with the Eagles and lost. This is Big Daddy T's nephew, by the way. And then wide receiver Cooper Kupp, also with the same Rams team as Ernest Jones, also winning the game's most valuable player honors. Another receiver wins MVP honors. And then the 4th one, quarterback Sam Darnold, who did not play in this game, but 2 years ago he was the backup for Brock Purdy in Super Bowl 58 with the 49ers. They lost the game, and this little tidbit cannot be understated as we go into this game as far as the quarterback matchup and the experience factor. Listen to Steve Young talk about the importance of having that experience as seeing a Super Bowl as a backup, which he did twice. Super Bowl 23, he watched his 49ers win with Joe Montana, and Super Bowl 24 back to back. He was able to watch both of those games. In fact, he even played a little bit in Super Bowl 24 against Denver, and that remains the only Super Bowl in history that had 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks play in the game. Joe Montana, John Elway, and Steve Young. And Steve Young talked about how important it was to experience the entire thing and how that helped him in Super Bowl 29 when he got to start the game, win it, and win most valuable player honors. Will this same experience be helpful to Sam Darnold, who has gone through the whole shebang of the Super Bowl week, the 2 weeks, gone through the whole game, seen everything, and very recently, just 2 years ago. We'll see how that plays out. And then for the experience for the Patriots, Austin Hooper, tight end, he goes back to 10 years ago, 9 years ago, Super Bowl 51. He was part of a gag job with Andy's Falcons, all right? And then the next year, the Eagles' victory had Mac Hollins, now a receiver for the Seahawks. So there's a win there. And then Carlton Davis, cornerback with the Buccaneers, won Super Bowl 55. All right, and then defensive lineman, Milton Williams has played in 2, won 1 last year with the Eagles. And finally, Christian Ellis, the linebacker, was in Super Bowl 57 with the Eagles and lost. So 3 rings for the Patriots, and then 2 for the Seahawks. Okay, and then we talk about a couple other very important things here. Afternoon trivia karma. Seahawks have no afternoon trivia karma. No fans showed up Monday. Patriot fans stacked the box. They brought in DNR Manning, Swift Fox Bozo to grab some of that afternoon trivia karma. Very smart by both of them. So 2 for afternoon trivia karma, 0 for Seattle. All right, so that tilts in the Patriots' favor. Tacmo Bowl karma. This is just as important, if not more important, than afternoon trivia karma. None for the Patriots. All right. For the Seahawks, they have quarterbacks coach Jay Harbaugh, son of Jim Harbaugh, who was the starting quarterback, Tecmo Super Bowl for Dub Airs. And they also have offensive coordinator, probably the next head coach of your Las Vegas Raiders, Darth, Clint Kubiak. Also the son of a quarterback who was the backup in Super Tecmo Bowl, Gary Kubiak, okay, who also played a little bit in that Super Bowl 24, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. So the Tecmo Karma leans to Seattle. The afternoon trivia Karma leans towards the Patriots, okay? All right, now we'll start to look at the breaking down the game itself. All right, boys, so Seattle is favored in this game by 4.5 points, which I agree with. That sounds about right. However, I don't really agree with how so many people are picking Seattle in this game. It seems more lopsided than it should be. If you look at Pips Pick'ems, currently Seattle has a 74% to 26% edge on the pick distribution, and we'll of course be watching that Sunday at 6:25 p.m. is the deadline to get those picks in. We got a big one brewing as far as who's going to win it next to win the title for 2025 Pips Pick'ems. All right, so getting serious now, we have the Seattle Seahawks. They are favored in this game. I have some things to say about Seattle and how there's been a lot of talk about how the Patriots have a weak schedule. The Seahawks, 4 of the last 6 weeks, have played the Rams and the 49ers. So they've kind of been playing the same teams recently, kind of facing the same schemes, the same teams, the same offensive lines, the same defenses, whereas the Patriots have played like a lot of different teams, especially like down the stretch and in the playoffs. They play like, teams with like different looks, different offenses, different defenses. I think they're more ready to like adapt to whatever team they face, okay? The Patriots are also not like any offense that Seattle has played this year. Seattle has played a lot of these, especially lately, these kind of West Coast offense styles, whereas the Patriots are completely different from that. They are more like heavy personnel. They are more under center running the football, and their offense adapts better to like different defenses. The Patriots offense has played in the playoffs 3 of the top defenses in the National Football League. They play some very good defenses. The Chargers, the Texans, and the Broncos. 3 of the really great Ds in the NFL. Now the only difference about Seattle is that they're a better overall team with defense, offense, and special teams. Okay, so the Seattle defense, it's talked about as being this like elite defense, but I don't really see it as being like that as great as people are making it out to be. I think Houston's defense was better. Denver's defense, I think, is better. Seattle's cornerbacks are good, but they're not great. They're good playing zone, but they're not, when it comes to man-to-man, they're not particularly good in those situations. Structurally, the Chargers defense, and that's the defense that New England played in the wild card game, is very similar to Seattle. It's about as close as you can get by comparison. And that was the best game that Drake May played in the playoffs, despite the sacks that he took. The Chargers and the Seahawks both do like a kind of a rush 4 They kind of let you run a little bit, and I think that bodes well in New England's favor, that they're similar to the Chargers defense, but maybe not even as good as the Chargers defense when healthy. All right, so Seattle's defensive line versus the Patriots' offensive line. Let's talk about that because that's a key matchup. Okay, so if you're a fantasy football player, you can take a break, take your piss break, and come back. This doesn't involve you. Seattle is not a threat as far as like when it comes to pass rushing. Off the edge, they're not really that much of a threat. Compare that to the Chargers, the Texans, and the Broncos, the three teams that New England has just faced. Seattle's pass rush mostly comes from the defensive tackles. Okay, and that's good news for New England because New England's interior offensive line is very good. And that should keep this from being one of these like Drake May heavy sack games. So I like that matchup as it favors New England. Their interior offensive line and versus Seattle's very good defensive tackles. Okay, so Seattle should be able to mostly shut down the Patriots' running game, but you can kind of attack the middle of the field against Seattle. So that's like look for the tight ends for New England to be particularly solid. Austin Hooper, one of our Super Bowl experienced tight ends. So I think May's going to have some success in the middle of the field against Seattle. Remember, Seattle man-to-man is not that great. And the Seattle defense, which has been talked about so highly of, they have not played elite quarterbacks this season outside of Matthew Stafford. If you go through game by game and look at the quarterbacks that defense has gone up against, outside of Matthew Stafford, really not that much. I mean, Baker Mayfield in September when he was playing very well, because you could say that. I would say Drake May, though, is the second best quarterback that Seattle has faced this year. Okay, so in Josh McDaniel, there's something to say about him being in 9 Super Bowls. He knows the rounds here. He knows what to look for, and I think he's going to have a little something special to go up against that Seattle defense. And before we move on to the Seattle offense, I also have to say something about the New England offense, and it's good to see just a little Richmond, Virginia shout out. It's good to see Morgan Moses, veteran offensive right tackle out of UVA, born in Richmond, Virginia, went to Meadowbrook High School. I filmed the video there one time, so it's good. And then you have the running back Travion Henderson, Ohio State, born in Hopewell, Virginia, went to Hopewell High School, home of the Beacon Theater, which I've been to a couple times and filmed that too. So good to see a Meadowbrook High School player, Chesterfield, Virginia, near Rito. Morgan Moses will be blocking for a Hopewell player, Travion Henderson. All right, let's get to the Seattle offense. Seattle offense really hasn't played like a top 10 defense since about week 7. Okay, so they've been a little bit had some kind of not challenged too much, that offense. The best defense they faced since then was like maybe Minnesota. And Minnesota had Max Brosmer at quarterback that day. So they might be a little softened at this point, not ready for a very underrated Minnesota defense. For Seattle, the running game is very important. It's been very important for them all year. And the New England run defense is top notch in the NFL. It's not being talked about enough how Not only that, Charbonnet, the Seattle running back, who had close to 700 yards, 12 rushing touchdowns, is a hammer at the goal line, is out in this game. So that's a big loss for them. Okay. Probably the biggest matchup in this game is the Patriots defensive line against Seattle's interior line. Okay, so this matchup here, guys, of the 6 or 7 of us that made our Super Bowl picks back in early September, and thank you guys for doing that. Those of you who manned up and made your picks on there, Abule, Andy, Yukon, Bear Scott, Mr. Matt, Free Jack Balls, all you guys, kudos to you guys for at least putting your picks out there. But none of us even got one Super Bowl participant. That's really difficult to pull that off. Just really no one really saw these two teams being in there this year. But one thing I talked about at the beginning of the year was that interior offensive line for the Seahawks, which is a little bit weak, and then going up against that Seattle defensive line, especially the interior, it's a huge advantage, I think, for the New England Patriots. They're going to be able to apply some pressure and really get Darnold kind of out of his comfort zone. That's going to be a really big thing to watch. Again, fantasy geeks, this does not concern you. You don't understand this, but this is a big part of the game. The Patriots defensive line versus Seattle's interior offensive line. Their tackles are very good when they're healthy, but the interior is a little shaky. Seattle has also not seen offensively a team like New England as far as their secondary. Carlton Davis, who has good veteran Super Bowl experience, and then the young stud Christian Gonzalez, becoming one of maybe the best quarterback cover corner in the National Football League, and then Marcus Jones, a great nickel guy, who's also a great return man. Those three right there, Seattle has not seen a secondary like that. Okay, so Darnold could be due for an interception or two, one of those. So it's just a group that Seattle has not seen all season long. New England right now is blitzing very well. They're getting pressure from the interior line and from blitzing, and I think that looks good for New England. If we compare the special teams, it's pretty close. In a possible low-scoring game like this one, it does come under very important. It's very important with field goals, how many field goals are made and missed, and then returns, coverage on the punt returns. Both teams really good at this. They both have dynamic return men. Seattle has Rashid Shaheed, and then Marcus Jones for the Patriots, great return man. So I guess one of these guys could return a kick for a touchdown. It's possible. If so, it would be like a huge play in the game. And then the kickers, Jason Myers for the Seahawks, has been excellent this year. And then Andy Borregales, it's been really good too. And watch when he kicks one from over 50 yards. I may have jinxed him last night when I said he's perfect this year from 50 and out, 4 for 4. So if he lines up for a field goal over 50, pay attention to that. The general may have jinxed Andy. Okay. So I don't think either team's going to be able to run the ball particularly well in this game. And it's going to really be, I see it being not a high scoring game. You never know in these games. Seattle's a 4.5 point favorite, but are they an overwhelming favorite? I don't know if they should be, really. I think that Seattle is maybe the best team on paper here, and probably, if they play their best, should win this game. But New England's defense isn't being talked about enough, and I think their quarterback, while very young, he is the second youngest to start a Super Bowl next to Dan Marino, very close in age. He does have the experience of seeing a game 10 years ago and watching it, but I think he has the ability to like make, I don't think it's going to be who makes like a scramble. It's going to be who makes a clutch throw kind of towards the end on like a 4th and 5, 3rd and 9. It's going to be some play like that towards the end of the game. And I think Drake May might be trusted a little bit better against those corners for Seattle and against that kind of zone defense with some open spots for the tight ends. Kind of trust him a little bit more there. 4.5 point favorites for the Seahawks. But the Patriots, I believe, have the formula for an upset. This wouldn't be a huge upset. There aren't any huge upsets anymore in the NFL. But they have the right formula for a Super Bowl upset. They have an elite run defense. They have an elite interior defensive line. They have an elite quarterback. That's right, an elite quarterback in Drake May. And they have a borderline elite head coach in Mike Vrabel. And don't forget Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator. My pick, I'm going to go with Seahawks 20, and then Patriots 23 in a low-scoring game. MVP, I'm just going to go with the quarterback. Last year, I tried to get cute, and I went with Saquon Barkley. It wasn't a bad pick, but running back hasn't won since Super Bowl 32. 28 years ago. So I'm going to go with Drake May, doing enough, probably over 200 yards. No fumbles, no interceptions, maybe one touchdown pass, but just enough and then maybe a clutch drive at the end, field goal position or something. Maybe Andy Borregales hits a clutch field goal, but I think he's going to do enough to get the MVP, even though you'll have maybe a really good defensive performance, someone on the Patriots who has an argument for MVP, but it's really hard to do that with the voting these days. Maybe someone like Milton Williams, defensive tackle, could possibly be an MVP. If you're going Seattle, it's Darnold. It could be Leonard Williams, defensive end. So that's going to be my prediction right there, guys. I just feel like it's just kind of a gut feeling, and then the things I just broke down for you. Patriots 23, Seahawks 20, and Drake May MVP. But if my clone Sam Darnold wins it, I would have no problem with that either. So I hope you guys enjoy Sunday, and that you have your food plans all ready for Sunday. Swift, Andy, I know y'all are probably hosting parties and setting up all sorts of pig in a blanket, and I think maybe like chicken tenders. I think Swift does a lot more like high class type of caviar, wine, that kind of stuff, and stuff that none of us are even allowed to think about, us jabronis. So I know Swift's gonna have a great party, and I hope the rest of you have great plans. Don't do something stupid like order pizza. Make your own, or have a take and bake. I think John D is going to go under the radar and have something really good to eat with this, like a really nice spread. So, all right, guys, this has been Peter's Frank Addington premiere video of the Super Bowl 60 prediction. Let me know what you think. Let me know your prediction. Let me know what you disagree with and agree with. And thank you so much for watching on the Frank Addington channel. And hope you enjoy the game. God bless.